This is an SQL mock test video, and this is the second part. We're covering some grade 12 IT work. We've already done questions 1 to 4. I'm only going to do questions 5 and 6 because the questions are getting a bit more meatier now, so they do require a bit more explanation. So let's just go and recap about what we're dealing with when we talk about the database tables. So this one, we can see that we're dealing with an educators table. There are the details. So we discussed this in more detail in the first video, so just go watch that if you wanted a better explanation of all the fields. And then over here we've got the learners table, which has the details of the learners, for example, the registered teacher, their subjects, and the teachers that take them for those subjects. Just something to be aware of is that the teacher code in this table, there we go, is linked to the registered teacher in this table. So there's a link there. And we did questions 1 to 4. Let's jump to number 5. So for the Q5 button, we want to display all the registered teachers. Okay, so we're dealing with the registered teachers, so that's the learners table, as well as the total number of learners in each of those classes. So display the class numbers from the most learners to the least. So there's also a sort. So there's quite a few things to process here. So we're dealing with the learners table. Let's go look there. So basically we want to count how many times we see AA and then count how many times we see all the other teacher codes. So we counting, so we're using an aggregate function. Okay, so we must remember we're using an aggregate function, and we are counting, we're saying the registered teacher, and we're counting the number of learners in the class. So that's what we want to do. It doesn't matter which field we are counting, because with a count we can count any field. It doesn't make a difference. If we were using max or min or average or sum, then we would have to use a field that's got numbers in. But in this one, we don't have to worry. So I'm going to come down here to question 5, and let's write the SQL. So the first thing I want to do is I'm selecting a count. Now you can say a count of a field. I can actually say count star from the learners table, TB. Okay, there's no criteria at the moment that I can remember. So the first thing I wanted to take a look at here is that we are looking at it's according to the registered teacher. So there are two things that are being displayed. It's the registered teacher, the counting of the registered teacher's name, and then how many are in that class. So there's two columns. So therefore, in our query, we should have two things. So obviously, the first one is easy because it's the registered teacher. So let's do register teacher field. So that, and then we're going to do the count. Okay. Now, if I run it just like this, let's forget the sort part. If I run it just like this, it's probably going to give me an error. It doesn't, hey, how are we going to do this? The reason is because the moment you use an aggregate function with another field, that means you want to count according to that field. You group in the registered teachers and then counting. So we need to group it, group by, and you will always group by the fields that are not involved in the aggregate function. In this case, we're going to group by register teacher. Okay, so we are grouping by the registered teacher. So the moment you've got an aggregate function with some other fields, you will always group by those other fields. Even if they're multiple ones, you will group by all of them. So let's run it now. So now it works a little bit better. Now we can see all the A's, that all the DC's are that. We don't want that label though at the top. What label do we want? We must fix that as well. We want learners in class. So next to the count, we're going to use the as operator and say learners underscore in underscore class, so that it displays it with that heading now. Number 5. There we go. We're getting there slowly but surely. But now the last and final step. What did they say? They said something about sorting. We must display it from the class numbers from most to least. So we're going to sort it. Now the first trick is to know where do we put. We know we must use the order bar. We've done an example with order bar. Where do we do it? Now order bar always goes last. Okay, so we're going to put order bar right at the end after the grouping. Order bar. Now I want to order by the count. Now I can't refer to the count like this. I can't do that. So that's going to be awkward. So I'm going to order by, now this is a little trick you can do. We want to order it by this aggregate function, and we want to go from most to least. So we want it in descending order. Here's a little trick. You can order by the number of the column. This is column 1, that's column 2. So I want to order by column 2. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to say order by 2 in descending order. You can just refer to the columns by their number. And then that should work. Let's see. Boom. There we go. So you can see it's in descending order according to column 2. There we go. You can see all of them. Boom. There we go. And so now we've got our group by registered teacher. We counted them and then we ordered it. So that's question 5. Oh, that was quite tricky. Now, number 6. Complete the code that will prompt the user for a teacher's code. So we're going to have to use some Delphi today in this. And then display all the details of all the learners that were taught by that teacher. Now, we did something very similar in question 4, if I remember correctly, where we wanted to find all those of a particular teacher. In this case, we want to do the exact same thing, but the user is going to be asked for which teacher. And we're going to display all the details. So let's go over here. So the first thing in question 6, we actually need to first get information from the user. So I'm going to make a variable called tcode for the teacher's code. Let's make it a string. And then before we even do our SQL, let's prompt this user for a teacher code. So I'm not going to put a little head in there. I'm just going to say enter teacher code. And to make my life easier, I always put a default value in, just so that I don't have to type too much, because I'm lazy. Lazy programmers are good programmers because they do things, they do less code, do the same thing, hopefully. So we're going to be testing with CV. So let's put a CV in by default, so we can always change it. So we got T code, prompt the user, input, not input, input box, Mr. Long, input box. And now I got rid of my brackets. There we go, input box brackets, fantastic. Now that I've got my code. Now, let's forget about the variable that we've got there. Let's just, if we were doing this normally for CV anyway, we would say select star, because we want to select everything from the learners table where, and we will basically would say teachers, and just like we did before, was like double quote star CV star double quote. Okay, that's what we would normally do. But remember, we can't use stars, we need to use percentage signs. So we're using percentage signs, and then let's test it. Let's first test it to see that we get the right results. Number 6. So CV, it doesn't really make a difference. So yes, we've got CVs all there. Fantastic. Now, how do I get it so that I use this, what they typed in there? So I'm going to, over here, I basically want to go take that away, and I'm going to stop the string. First of all, the first part of the string, so we over here now. Now I'm going to add the variable, which is stcode, and then I'm going to add the rest of the string at the end. So basically, I'm constructing a string where I put whatever's in the S code into the SQL statement. Now, luckily, this is a string, so it'll work very nicely. If it was a number, I would have to convert it from an int to a string. But there we go. So now it'll take whatever the value is inside T code in Delphi, because you see it's in black, which means we're referring to the variable value. So whatever's in the variable will then be used. So let's run it. CV, okay, we get the same results. And if we change it up, let's say we want a BL. So I'm going to change that to BL. Okay, there we go. We've got all the teachers that have got BL in the front. So there we go. So there we can see it's working. Okay, so that's how we use an SQL statement with a bit of Delphi code integrated into it. For the other videos from this mock test, go to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, give us some feedback on Twitter, and subscribe, please. We'd love you to subscribe. And remember, don't do it the long way. Do it the Mr. Long way.